Hey guys, welcome to part 2 of Let's Play Spider-Man Web of Shadows Amazing Allies Edition. In the last part we defeated Venom, so now we can break that wall. By the way, I'm really sorry about the dialogue. I don't know why I should be apologising, but there's very little dialogue in this actual game, or spoken dialogue, and for some reason it's mixed really quietly. It's something you may have noticed in the last part where all the dialogue was just really quiet, and part of that was my fault for not making it loud enough, but it is also the game's fault for just being so quiet. Like, the sound design is terrible. See, they're so quiet compared to the pow pow sort of sounds. But anyway, back to the intense story. So, this is Spider-Man Web of Shadows, so the whole storyline is about the symbiotes taking over the city. So at this point in time, we have defeated Venom and got the symbiotes back. I mean, Venom's not completely defeated, of course. And now we're trying to help Nick Fury and S.H.I.E.L.D. build some sort of sonic generator to destroy all the symbiotes in the city. So then Kingpin just called us up and was like, hey, I want to help because I like this city. It's a bit like in the 360 version where Kingpin kind of helps, but we won't really see that much of Kingpin until a lot later. He just wanted to call to say hi. I mean, you can't really blame the guy. So at the beginning of this level, we now have the symbiote suit, or the black suit, and we now can use that for combat and stuff. So we have to use it to break down these walls. And it gives you a little tutorial about it as well, because you now have a new attack where you can do that, where you can just dash into the side, and then you just got to do that to break through the plays. So with the other two games, I apologise if I talk a lot about the other versions of the games. I would recommend checking them out before watching this one, because, or at least playing them for yourselves, because I will be talking about them a lot. But in the other two games there were distinct differences between the red suit and the black suit. The red suit in general was more agile, you could do more web-based attacks, you know, I always picked red suit because I find in general with Spider-Man games it's better to be more mobile and, you know, just be more mobile and have more agility rather than be more powerful, because it's better to be able to avoid attacks and use your web stuff. I just found that to be my personal preference, but of course there was also the black suit where you could stamp stuff. In this game they're pretty much the same. There are differences, there are particular, you know, powers that only the black suit can do, but they're the same in terms of combat really. And again, there are differences technically, like with certain attacks that you unlock, but you can just play as whatever and the differences will be minor. But this is the second mission of the game, and the whole thing takes place in a hotel, because we're trying to track down the Shocker, and apparently I don't know, he checked in at a local hotel. He's all like, oh, I've got evil schemes to do, I need to be in the area, I'll just go to a local hotel, I suppose. I don't really know what he's supposed to be doing. He might have told me, because obviously this is still post-commentary, so he might have actually said. So we'll see once we meet up with him. But yeah, this whole level is based in a hotel, which is pretty lame. A hotel setting, it's just lame. Like, we're playing Spider-Man, this is Web of Shadows. The whole gimmick is that the symbiote, or one of the gimmicks, is that the symbiotes have taken over the city. But does this really look like a place where the city has been taken over? Okay, that wall fell down. I mean, that's tragic, but that's not really the worst that aliens can do, because they're aliens. So I don't know. It's weird, because you could argue that, oh, at this point in the story the symbiotes haven't taken over the city, but that's not true, because after you fight Venom, Nick Fury calls you up and say the symbiotes have taken over the city. Like, he's very specific that the aliens are here, which is why you're trying to, you know, stop them. But the second level, where there's supposed to be all these symbiotes, is just a hotel. In the DS version, it starts off with the symbiotes taking over the city, and everything is like purple, there's sludge. You know, it's very clearly that the city has been taken over. But with this one, you just kind of go to a hotel, and you just kind of hang out, and it's just a hotel, and it's really lame. Oh, it's quite lame. And then we have like this section as well where the camera just for some reason zooms right in and we've got to avoid these vents. But it doesn't really last that long, there's not that much to it. So in case you got a bit sick of seeing me fighting enemies and having that be all there is, there we go, that was the gameplay. That was the thing that was mixing up the gameplay. We had to kind of avoid some vents. I do apologise for being negative, by the way, but I kind of have to be about this game. It's not the worst game I've ever played, but I definitely have to be negative about it. There's quite a lot to complain about, and still there's more stuff to complain about. So that tutorial might be pretty confusing, because that's what you got to do. You got to hold down and press triangle, but if you read the dialogue box or the tutorial box, I'm pretty sure it says press triangle and then it gives you a symbol of the down symbol on the D-pad. Like, what? Why? Why not just say press down on the D-pad? Although technically they're not allowed to say that. Fun fact, because Nintendo owe the copyright to D-pads because they essentially invented them. So any other company has to call them directional pads. So there we go, fun fact. But yeah, it's really confusing. Sorry about that. When I saw that, because I was like, oh, I have to press up and then triangle, but no, that's not what you have to do at all. So I mentioned in the last part that part of the reason why the Venom fight kind of sucks is, I mean, it's overly difficult. You can do that boss really quickly, by the way, but it's overly difficult, and one of the reasons I listed is because sometimes you just miss. And that's the case for the whole game. That's not a Venom exclusive feature. The whole game, when you're fighting enemies, you'll find that half your attacks will just not connect. That you have a very specific hitbox when it comes to doing your punches and kickers and cool moves. And then with enemies, there's only like certain, I don't know, states that they can be in. I think that's the best way to say, where you can actually hurt them. So when they're on the ground, you can't do anything to them. And then when they're like floating in the air, you can sometimes juggle on them. Oh, actually, no, wait, hold on. Oh no, we got one more enemy to kill. Because yes, you do have to take out all these enemies before you can progress. And yes, it does get quite tedious. But oh no, here it is. This is a great cutscene. This is a great moment. What was that? He made a joke about strokes. And then, like, what was all that? He made a stroke joke, and then you see the shadow of Spider-Man, which is just a black circle, and then the floor just collapsed for no reason, and then you fall down, and then the guy's like just checking his watch. And then there's next to no animation. You can't go through that doorway, by the way, even though you can clearly physically see that Spider-Man can fit through. You can't go through it for no reason. Like what was it? It's so weird playing this game. Stuff kind of just happens. Because it feels more like a PS1 game. And with a PS1 game you kind of accept this sort of stuff. But this is a PS2 game that came out in 2008. So to have a cutscene like that, where it just, Spider-Man's standing there, he falls through, guy checks his watch, it's weird. So that guy was the owner of the hotel. And there is like kind of like this small sub-story going on with this level. It's just kind of hard to care. So we're trying to track down Shocker, who has hidden himself in a certain part of the hotel. So we have to go talk to that guy, or we just fell through the ceiling. He didn't seem to be that annoyed about the ceiling being collapsed, or symbiotes or whatever. Instead, he said that these thugs have taken his daughter, so now we have to go help him out to help him help us find the Shocker. So there we go. It's not really a complex story or anything like that, but it can sound a little bit weird. Because, like, right, so this is supposed to be the city taken over by symbiotes, and we're just beating up random folks. Like, these aren't people that have been taken over. You can see they're just folks. They're just guys with knives for some reason. They've got all swords, it looks like. That's a bit weird. That's a bit creepy. Maybe they are symbiotes, but they're just... like, why are we fighting these guys? In Spider-Man Web of Shadows, it takes quite a long time before the symbiotes show up, which I like. I mean, it takes time so you can actually see the city in its normal state and do normal Spider-Man duties. Whatever, it's a good time. But this is supposed to be like in the middle of it, and it's just like you're just fighting the most generic henchmen, like the most generic ones, and you've just seen there that there was times where we were fighting 5 of the same guy. We were just fighting the same guy 5 times, which 10 years ago would have been fine. Actually, no, that was 2004. 15 years ago would have been fine, but now it's just weird. So here's something that's kind of nice though. Like, once you save the daughter, it then turns out she's a little bit bitchy and just kind of has a go at you the whole time. And actually the dialogue is kind of funny. It's just too bad that the dialogue is just thrown in your face and then you've got to close like the dialogue box. I said I was going to complain about the dialogue or the amount of text, and you know, I'm going to commit to that. Every part I will complain about it. But yeah, too bad the jokes are just like, boom, here you go. But she said stuff like, oh, Iron Man would have saved me by now. But this is another one of those choices that you can make that doesn't really affect anything, but if you want you can just do this, which I did accidentally, because you're supposed to take the daughter outside of the hotel, so then the hotel owner, this guy, is like, yay, and then he helps you out. But you can just leave her behind and then tell the guy, hey, what you got, which again I think is quite nice. I think is a quite nice way of doing it. You're still kind of achieving the same goal, but it's a little tweak in there. You know, good ideas. This is a good idea. I kind of like it. It's just, again, it just all comes down to text boxes, so it comes off as a little lame. But I didn't mean to do that. I didn't mean to leave her behind. I'm trying to be the good guy in this playthrough. I just accidentally, while trying to fight everyone, because you don't have a proper dodge. You can see, like, the combat is bad. And the first reason why it's bad is because you just miss half the time. It's one of those where even though you're punching and doing stuff, you just sometimes miss, and then it's annoying. But also because you don't have a proper dodge. Like with a lot of Spider-Man games, you have the spider sense, so you can just jump out the way, but you don't have that in this. So I was just trying to jump to avoid the enemy's attacks, and I just accidentally hit the doorway, and I had to be to the guy like, yeah, that's how that is. What do you got?
You want to spend some time together? Come closer.
The one room in the whole place that you can't knock the walls down. Never let anybody accuse you of planning ahead.
Okay, so here's the boss fight, the Shocker, who looks like, I think that's like his original design, which is kind of nice. So this boss fight, I kind of like it actually. It's a very simple boss. A very simple one. So what you got to do is that when he's covered in blue stuff, that means you can't attack him. I don't think he actually hurts you if you run into him. Well, when he jumps into you it hurts, but if you run into him when he's got this force field, it's fine. But the whole boss fight is you just wait until he attacks you and then you dodge. So there's no pattern to it, you don't have to memorize it all. He will just start executing random attacks, and then at random points he will decide, I'm gonna put down my shield. And I believe that he is trying to charge up some sort of special attack, so if you don't attack him in time when his shield is down, he will like attack you. I may be wrong, but look at that. I mean, I've never actually seen it, that's why I'm not too sure. But yeah, that can totally happen. But the reason why I like this fight is because it doesn't actually involve the combat at all. You're not fighting him one-on-one like Venom. You know, with Venom, he was attacking you, you were attacking him, you're trying to dodge his attacks and whatever. With this, all you have to do is just dodge his attacks. You just have to react appropriately. Which, you know, there's a challenge to it. It's not actually a hard boss fight, but there's like a challenge to be able to... It's all just reacting, you know, which I think is quite good. And it's something a bit different, you know. With the DS game, I don't think there was anything like that. So with the PS2 version of this game, you know, it's quite nice that they did something different. And then another thing that makes this boss fight, again, quite interesting but also kind of easy, is that you can make him fire his electric blast upwards and that will destroy the ceiling, and then you can grab some health. So again, it's all kind of good ideas. It's just mostly kind of poor execution. So I think this fight is okay. I think it's a solid boss fight, but it probably should have been the first one. Like, the Venom boss fight just left such a sour taste in my mouth that I feel like this probably should have been the first one. Because it's quite simple, it purely involves just movement, or you using Spider-Man to move. So I would recommend don't use your summons. As you can see in the top right with the summons that I mentioned in the last part, I would recommend just leaving them alone. You don't need them at all. I believe it might actually be quite difficult to use the summons and use specific timing for them, you know, to make sure you're actually hurting him. I can't say for sure because you just don't need it. You have 2 lots of health at the top. He doesn't actually do that much damage when he hits you, and it's just not that hard to kind of avoid his attacks. The only ones that might catch you out is the jumping. Oh, and by the way, all these frame rate issues are in-game. This isn't my recording equipment messing up. This is in-game frame rate issues, so remember that.
What do you want from me?
I love that the Shocker is doing the same pose. They didn't give him more than one pose. Right, so we're going to get the gauntlets off him, so you can be nice or, you know, an arsehole about it. But if you also want to be an evil guy, you can get him as a summon. But because we're being a good guy, we're saying, no, we don't need your help, so that's that. So anyway, next time on Let's Play Spider-Man Web of Shadows Allies Edition, I'm not going to get used to saying that name, but now that we've defeated the Shocker, we've got to go and get more parts. So at the very end here, I buy one more attack that I'm never going to use, and then don't really kind of do that much. But yeah, so I've been HonestTom23, don't forget to like, comment and subscribe, and I will see you next time.